Welcome back to the Wandering Star Farmhouse. I am working on preserving something every day this month with the Every Bit Counts challenge, and today I am slicing up cherry tomatoes to dehydrate into sun-dried tomatoes. What I'm doing is separating them according to size. I'm putting my biggest ones on one sheet and separating those out from the kind of medium-sized ones. And the reason why I'm going to do that is the bigger ones will take longer to dry than the medium-sized ones. But this way, I can take out the medium sheet when the medium ones are done and leave the whole big sheet in for longer. And then these smallest ones I am putting on the herb screen because these ones are so small that first of all, they will dry faster than the medium-sized ones and the large ones. But also as they dry, they kind of shrink and shrivel up a little bit. And these ones are so small that they will fall through the regular racks. So I just do them on this herb screen that came with my dehydrator, and then that way they won't fall through. And I'm going to put the tray of the smallest ones on the bottom so that that screen with the small ones will catch if any of those medium-sized ones end up shrinking and falling through as well. Then they'll get caught on that bottom screen and won't fall to the bottom. I got those in at 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and I will check on them after about 12 hours. What I'm looking for is for them to be kind of leathery, like fruit leather, and definitely not sticky and wet. And this was all of the tomatoes that I got my kids to pick yesterday before they got their computer time after school. I'm gonna go ahead and store these in the refrigerator. Technically, they don't have to be stored in the fridge if they're dehydrated correctly, and the moisture content is low enough, but you know, who knows? These don't take up that much space, and so I'm just gonna stick them in the door of my fridge and store them in there. And one of my favorite ways to use these is like with a white sauce, like with a white pasta sauce. And I make a white pasta sauce lasagna with sun-dried tomatoes and with Italian sausage and with spinach, and it is super delicious. Today is Thursday, August 17th, and I am working on some more butter today. I've already done one batch of butter. I did 5 cups of cream, and I got a pound of butter from that. And so now I am doing my next batch of butter. I just had a bunch of milk built up in the fridge, and so I need to skim all the cream off and make butter, and then I can make some cheese out of the skimmed milk. So you can see the cream line on the milk right here. This one is a little wavy because I let this jug of milk freeze. When it freezes, just because I forget about the milk in the freezer as it's cooling down, but when it freezes, it's actually, the cream actually separates even more, so it's kind of easier to get the cream off, but then the cream is a little bit chunky. So we really it's not very good to drink after it's frozen because the cream is all chunky, but it makes it perfect for making butter out of. So there's a big scoop of cream off the top. And you can see then that the milk has come through here. So I'm going to try and skim off some more cream. Today is Friday, August 18th, and I worked on a batch of tomato sauce today with the next couple days worth of ripe tomatoes. But I'm gonna can that up in the morning because I decided to make a batch of no-bake cookies tonight instead of canning because we needed some cookies instead. But the other exciting thing about today is I got a package in the mail, and this is to help me with my preserving. This came from Etsy, or an Etsy seller from Canada, actually. This is my new cheese press, and here is my larger cheese mold, and pretend this is some curds in there. So put the top on of my cheese mold, and then the springs are what exert pressure. So if I, at the beginning of the pressing, when I'll be using a lower amount of weight, I'll just put one spring over the center dowel. And then after my first pressings, then I need a greater pressure and I'll put both springs on. The cheese press comes with this tool, and when it fits all the way in here, it's at neutral. And each one of these little stair steps down corresponds with 5 pounds of pressure per one spring. So when I have 2 springs, then each one of these steps down is 10 pounds of pressure. And then what you can do is you can have wood blocks that you put in here also so that it continues to push against this as the follower goes down inside. This is my brand new exciting tool that is gonna help me with preserving a lot of the milk from my cow into cheese for this winter. So I'm really excited to get started on that. I have a lot of frozen milk in the freezer from when my cow was at her peak in production. I mentioned in a previous video that we are going to process our pigs this fall, and so I need to clear out freezer space so that we have enough room to put our pigs into the freezer. So this is gonna help me clear out all the gallons and gallons of frozen milk I have in my freezer. Today is Saturday, August 19th, and I am getting started with canning up my tomato sauce today. I've got my jars ready. Today I decided to use citric acid instead of lemon juice. I'm gonna give that a try. Citric acid, salt, and then some of my homemade Italian herbs that I made in the last video. And then there's that jar that from a couple of days ago, I didn't have enough sauce to fill up that jar. And I was gonna tell you about this. This is a 7-quart pot, and basically what I'm doing is I fill it up about here with the tomatoes when I'm filling it up, and they're all soupy and messy, and so I fill it up about here. So that's about like 6 or 7 quarts of tomatoes. And then I cook it for a while, and I get out all the pulp. I get out all the skins and the seeds. And so that leaves me with about 5 quarts of sauce left, and so it'll be like up here, and then I wait until it's halfway down, and so I end up with 5 pints. I start out with 5 quarts of tomato saucy juice, and then I end up with 5 pints. So you're boiling it down 50%, and this takes me a number of hours, like 3 or 4 hours. It's a long process to get it to this point where it's starting to look saucy and has like that texture to it of tomato sauce. Okay, the other project that I'm gonna work on today is getting honey into jars. And we have, I've got 4 of these. These are super size, but that's not super size, they're actually small. Supers are small beehive frames. These ones we traded a friend for. These are not from our beehives, and our beehive's currently empty. Our colony did not survive the winter. So these we had traded for a friend for something quite a while ago, and they've just been sitting in our kitchen. And so it's time to get them preserved for better long-term storage. We're lucky the ants haven't found them yet, just sitting on the counter in our kitchen. I'm going to use a couple different tools here. I've got mason jars, and then I'm going to use my small strainer in it, and then I'm going to use my milk strainer to kind of hold everything in above that small strainer. So we're gonna go ahead and work today. What I'm gonna do is, it's kind of fun to have some comb. So this is particularly cut comb honey. And what that means is a lot of times when people do these frames, put these frames in for the bees, they will be wired frames that have wires running up and down or side to side. And that helps the comb to be more stable. And that really helps when you're gonna put it in a centrifuge and spin it to get the honey out. But so to make cut comb honey, you don't put those wires through it. You have the comb that has no wires through it. So you can actually eat the whole honeycomb. And that's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to spread it on toast a little bit. But to eat the whole thing just as cut comb honey is like,
yummy.
It kind of gets gritty after a little bit. So I want to preserve some of the comb so that it's really pretty on like a charcuterie board or whatever. So we want to preserve some of the cut comb, but I'm also going to crush some of it so that then we just have some honey to use as well.